I am going to get started. I know we're a couple minutes late, and I purposely did that because it is Mother's Day. And people are maybe not getting down here the first thing in the morning. And I hear there's a race today, the 5K, so that's interesting. But I would like to welcome everyone and thank you for coming to learn about molecular hydrogen and how we can have the best life and the best gut and the best immune system. That's what we're going to learn today. So I would like to wish all the mothers, though, a happy Mother's Day. I talked to my wife this morning and told her you're amazing and I love you. Thank you for being the best mother on earth. And so she was missing me, and I, of course, missing her. But we're here together to learn and hopefully help as many mothers as we can. So we're gonna do this. I would like to start. This amazing woman is my wife, 24 years, the love of my life, and this is my son Jackson. And really, my journey in natural health really started because of her. My sweetheart has had many challenges in our marriage, from thyroid issues, gynecological issues, a number of issues, and it is really because of her that I have been pushed and pushed and pushed to learn all the things that I have learned in my life. I have been blessed with incredible health. I've never had an issue in my life. I have never even, I've only had one surgical procedure in my entire life. It's just very, very blessed in that way. I don't get sick. It's extremely rare. And so I would not have normally looked at all of the mechanisms for healing and understanding things like this, but it is because of my queen that I have looked at EMF damage. I've looked at these things because these things don't affect me much. I have an energy field that blocks a lot of things, but my sweetheart has a very different experience. And so for me, that gave me a lot of compassion for those that go through tough things in this life that other people seemingly are not affected negatively, but she is. We can go into a store where there are fluorescent lights, and half an hour later she is feeling tired and just she's done. Me, it doesn't really affect me. So I've had to look at that and say, wait, is there a part of the population that's affected by things that other people are not affected by? And it doesn't make it that it's not harmful to everyone just because not everyone is affected the same way. So understand that most of the great things that I'm going to talk about today and the things that I understand are because of her and because of coming to understand how to help her. Many years ago, I was working with diabetic patients. I was a podorthist at that time, and that was my licensure, scope of practice. And my entire life at that time was focused on preventing decubitus ulcers for those individuals that had diabetes, because we didn't want to amputate toes and feet. Because of one amputation, we give them 5 years to live. A second recurring amputation, 1 year to live. And so this was not a good mechanism. And so I was part of a huge movement in the United States of preventing decubitus ulcers, amputations, and therefore affecting morbidity rate. And after 15 years, it showed that we had stopped by 60% ulcers in the foot because of the things that we were doing with shoes and orthotics and different things for diabetic patients. In the United States, we had a therapeutic shoe bill where those with diabetes were able to have shoes that were appropriate for their feet, and we were able to reduce decubitus ulcers by 60% after a 15-year trial time. So it was very, very good. But during that time, I became aware of water and how water can help. I, like most people, thought of water as what you wash your car with and what you bathe in and maybe what you swim in, and that's it. That's what water's for. I had no really focus in my life of how water can be therapeutic or how water can help people with issues or disease models. So I wanted to understand, and I had been introduced to the alkaline water. This was long before there was even an industry. Understand, this was 15 plus years ago, and I had been introduced and wanted to understand what is it that was the mechanism, because all of these people were saying there was healing effects, and I did not at all agree that it was the pH of the water at all that was helping people. There was another mechanism, because people were having experiences, and my wife, when we trialed this, and we also did this with other patients with diabetes, their blood glucose levels would normalize in a few days. And I would say, what the heck is going on? Because pH is not going to do that, because you can take baking soda, put it in water, it's not going to have the same effect. It's not the pH. There was another mechanism. And it took about 1.5 to 2 years for me to figure out that molecular hydrogen was the mechanism of healing that everyone who had been talking about alkaline water and all these machines, that was the benefit of it. So we're going to talk about that today as well. But I just want you to understand how my process came was through this amazing lady that God has blessed me to be married with. So, and that's our 15-year-old son, who is a little older than that now, because that was a year or so ago when that picture was taken. But his name is Jackson, and he's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about oxidative stress. This is the leading cause of disease. We talk about a lot of things in natural medicine, and we talk about a lot of mechanisms. We talk about a lot of things. And unfortunately, sometimes in natural medicine, we're not any better than allopathic medicine. I've been in both worlds. And so, quite honestly, many times we're not any better. We're still chasing symptoms. We're still band-aiding. We're still giving products that aren't really healing the body. They're just helping and causing you to have to continue to buy that product or that supplement or what have you. This is not the medicine that I practice. Now that I became an ND and many, many other things in this journey over 15 years, bottom line, I am interested in healing the body and fixing the broken components of the body that are most important. I don't want to sell you a juice that we pick on Wednesday from some berry in Switzerland. This is not the way healing occurs. We have to help the gut, and that's what we're going to learn about today. We're going to understand how oxidative stress is the leading cause of disease and how oxidative stress comes into the body, what it does to harm the body, and how we can fix it, right? If I teach you the knowledge of what's wrong and don't give you solutions, then I've also not really helped you much. So we're going to get it all today, okay? So here's just a quick glimpse of all of the issues, or some of the issues that can be caused by oxidative stress. When we say that oxidative stress is the leading cause of disease, I'm not just saying that as a shocking moment. It really is the leading cause of disease. So if oxidative stress and inflammation is the leading cause of disease, then what should we be doing? Reducing oxidative stress and inflammation, correct? Because if it's the leading cause of disease and we get rid of it, then what's going to happen to disease? It's going to go away as well. It's very, very simple math, right? It's an if-then statement, just like in the computer world. An if-then statement is if this, then this, and it's really simple. But I just want to point out a few things. Here we have heart, kidney, skin. We call diseases by the part of the body they affect. But the cause of all of it is going to be what? Oxidative stress and inflammation. We can get into a car accident and have a knee injury and a head injury and all kinds of injuries, and we're going to call those injuries by different names, but the cause was the car accident, right? We can clearly understand it was a collision that caused all these things. It was just different parts of the body were affected, so we call the injuries by different names. And very much this is the same thing in disease models and conditions. The source is the same. It is oxidative stress. The parts of the body that it affects are everywhere, and so we have names for all of these conditions, symptoms, and diseases. Does that make sense? So, what is oxidative stress? It is an imbalance between the production of what? What is it? I want you guys to read with me. The production of free radicals and the ability of the body to counteract the damaging effects of those radicals. That's all oxidative stress is. That's the problem. So this stress can lead to cancer and other diseases. Now, in The Truth About Cancer, which I was in the documentary, I give a whole 45-minute lecture on simply how cancer is related to oxidative stress. And we can spend 45 minutes on one pathology and how oxidative stress, through different pathways and issues breaking down in the body, can lead to cancer. We could do the same thing for 170 other disease models. We could spend an hour on each one and talk about which pathways are affected and how we end up with a disease model. But the beginning of the story is the same, and that is oxidative stress, because our bodies are created by a brilliant individual, amazing, incredible creator that has put into our body processes to self-heal. But if our system isn't functioning, that mechanism goes away, and that's what's happening here. So our body's inability to keep oxidation in a normal range is because the antioxidant ability of the body is no longer functioning. Okay? So the reason being is we don't have hydrogen in our system. Now that may sound strange to you. I don't know how many of you heard of hydrogen before today or yesterday or during this event. I know you've all heard of the Hindenburg. We know hydrogen is a gas, right? It's part of water, H2O. We have hydrogen and oxygen that combine and create another molecule called a water molecule that is a liquid. It's no longer gas. Hydrogen is a part of that. Hydrogen is also part of what? Hydrochloric acid in the body, HCl. There's many things that hydrogen are utilized in the body as a component, and it is necessary to life. But we're going to talk about hydrogen by itself as a gas and what it can do in the body by itself as a gas. First of all, it's number 1 on the periodic table. That's because it is so incredibly tiny. And because it's tiny, it can go anywhere in the body, and it can do amazing things through bone, through blood, through brain barrier, joints, mechanisms, membrane. It doesn't matter what it is and where it is, it can go anywhere it wants in the body. It is so tiny, it can go through metal, plastic, glass. It is very, very small, understand. Vitamin C would be this large, and hydrogen would be like a point of a pen. It's extremely small. That is why it is number 1 on the periodic table. So it reduces oxidative stress and inflammation. The main role of hydrogen, through direct contact and through signal modulation, it reduces oxidative stress and inflammation in the body. Now, we could end right there, right? We could end this conversation because we just said to you that disease models, most all disease models are caused by oxidative stress and inflammation, and here hydrogen reduces oxidative stress and inflammation. It is the end of the story. But let's talk about how it does it, right? It is a selective antioxidant. One of the beautiful things about hydrogen, it is not like an antibiotic, for instance, that destroys good and bad bacteria in the body. Hydrogen is selective in that it only reacts with cytotoxic or cell-damaging free radicals, like a hydroxyl radical, for example, which is the most cell-damaging or the most cytotoxic radical in the entire body. And it converts it into a water molecule. Here you can see a hydroxyl radical that is simply oxygen and a hydrogen. So imagine the most cytotoxic or the most cell-damaging radical in the human body is simply a hydrogen and an oxygen. What happens if we add another hydrogen to it? It becomes water. Isn't that interesting? It goes from the most damaging reactive oxygen species in the body to a water molecule, simply by adding one hydrogen molecule. Very interesting. That's what happens on direct contact when we put H2 gas into the body. Directly it can react with hydroxyl radicals. However, it also does something else. Through catalase upregulation, it signals the mitochondrial respiratory chain, or mitochondria in general, not to produce as many hydroxyl radicals. So through signal modulation in the body, it tells the body, hey, you don't need to make so many of those. And that reduces hugely oxidative stress. Much better than a 1-to-1 ratio of having H2 and that completes 2 hydroxyl radicals. We would be constantly fighting because there's millions of mitochondria that could be producing. It's the upregulation and signal modulation to have less hydroxyl radicals in the body. That's how hydrogen functions. In other words, it's supposed to be in the body. Hydrogen is supposed to be in our body. It is designed to be there. So if hydrogen is supposed to be there, why isn't it there? That's the big question, right? Do we have a little gas pouch on us, we can push on our side and have hydrogen going in our system? No. We have a hydrogen generator right here in our gut, okay? So we are designed, our bodies are designed to produce hydrogen in the gut 10 to 12 liters per day through normal digestion of food. So why aren't we doing it? That's the big question. That is what is supposed to be, and if that happens, then we keep oxidation in a normal range. It happens through fermentation of food, right? Fermentation creates gases, methane, hydrogen, sulfur if it's smelly. And we have these gases, and they function in the body to keep oxidation in a proper range. They signal modulate many different pathways. It does all kinds of things. The problem is what? Gut damage. If you have gut damage, you no longer have the appropriate anaerobic microflora to produce the hydrogen, to convert fiber-rich foods, to convert short-chain fatty acids, medium-chain fatty acids into hydrogen gas. And that is because of what? Antibiotic overuse, pesticide-ridden foods, all these kind of things that damage our system from functioning properly. So we need to get hydrogen into the body because we are hydrogen deficient. And that sounds odd, that we're deficient in a gas. It sounds really odd to most people. And it sounded interesting to me when I first heard it, but I'm like, wow, that's interesting that would be the cause. But we have learned through hundreds of studies, and we now have 700 studies in the last 10 years showing benefits of hydrogen in the body, regulating 200 biomolecules, 170 human disease models, every organ in the body benefits, ghrelin secretions for neurologic. There's so many systems in your body that are dependent upon hydrogen, even your stomach acid, for instance. It's so critical, and no one is telling this story. This is what I've been doing for years, and little by little we're inching our way, and now people are starting to understand, wait a minute, it's not pH, it's not this, it's really hydrogen that we need to have in our body. And we need to understand that 70 to 80% of your immune system is housed in the gut. So if your gut is not functioning correctly, your immune system's not functioning correctly, and that's really what we're talking about. That's where the oxidation rises to oxidative stress, is because the immune system is not functioning. And so if we get the gut rehabbed or functioning correctly, then we now have also caused your immune system to be functioning again. And we can do this with the machine that I developed that you're going to learn about in a minute in 2 weeks. We can return the gut to functioning in a couple weeks. So these are the kind of things that we can accomplish in the body. Let's look at some studies. Here's some studies, and I just want you to understand the outcome of the studies are beautiful, but that doesn't guarantee you that this is going to happen to you, right? We know this, but who knows? It could happen to you. I'm experiencing that every day. We have many, many, many millions of people across the world in 15 years that we have helped. These are simply indicators through these studies of what can happen. So we do have 700 studies. 45 are human. We see that there are benefits in over 170 human disease models, which include anti-aging, glucose uptake, insulin signaling, SIRT1, and telomere activity. Now, you have Tony Jimenez, one of my dearest friends, here at this conference speaking. The study on telomere lengths and SIRT1, he was one of the contributors to that study as a medical doctor. Beautiful study on hydrogen. He, of course, uses our system in his cancer clinics, Hope for Cancer. Beautiful, beautiful man and a beautiful clinics in Mexico. It stimulates anaerobic microflora. That is critical in our conversation today. I hope one of your takeaways is the fact that your gut can recover rapidly. And the way we recover your gut is by anaerobic microflora. If we get the right bacteria into your gut functions. But understand, it's not magic. Restoring the gut is not magic, and it's not easy. It can take 2 years, 4 years, depending on what you're doing. From the time you have one round of an antibiotic, you can begin to chart sickness in that human being for the rest of their life until they rehab the gut and get the gut functioning back. And again, it can take 2 to 4 years if they don't know what they're doing, or they're even trying with probiotics and they're not using them correctly. Most probiotics are a waste of money, to be honest with you. And if you're not properly hydrated, they're going to do nothing for you either. So there's like half thinking going on in our industry of, oh, just take some probiotics. No. Or eat fermented food. No, it's not going to rehab your gut. It's a nice little thing, and kombucha is nice, and kefir is nice, and I love these things as well. But they're not going to rehab your gut. You understand? If it was that easy, then we wouldn't have the problem we have. We wouldn't have an epidemic of disease models going on. What happens is we need to change the environment of the gut. What the real situation is, Robert Scott Bell, who's a very dear friend, he speaks many times and he talks about the fact that if you burned a forest But right before burning the forest, you took all the animals out, because you are a very loving person, and you took the animals out. And then after the forest finished burning, you put them back. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? You saved the animals, and that was nice, and you put them right back into a burned forest. What are they going to do? Where are they going to live? Are they going to enjoy that environment? Would we enjoy that environment if our house burned down and like, no, it's okay, you can go back and live now. We put the fire out, go back in there. And you're like, no, not so much. That's not where I want to be. Kind of smells weird, and I don't know, it doesn't look like it looked before. I don't want to live there, right? I'm going to go somewhere else where I feel comfortable. So the gut is no different. We can think of it as a forest. We can think of it as a biome, right? That's what it is. What we need to do is what? Grow the forest back, or change the environment so that we welcome the proper bacteria back in. That's when they will come back. And we don't need to seed them, and we start thinking like plants, like we have to put a seed down somehow in the gut. What we need to understand is bacteria grows in the body based on the environment. It is there. Everything is in our body to do what it's designed to do. We need to create the environment, and the bacteria will come. They will start to inhabit if the environment is correct. But as long as we keep an environment that supports aerobic bacteria will be there. When we change the environment so it's not suitable for aerobic bacteria and it is suitable for anaerobic bacteria comes in. And that's what our water does. It's very, very rapid. We can outpace an antibiotic with the water. We've done it with IBS patients. We've done it with Crohn's. We've had some fun with this, and we can change those things rapidly. Okay? So these are some of the things. From a ghrelin perspective, this is critical for neurologic and for cognitive increase. When hydrogen hits your stomach, it stimulates ghrelin, which goes to the hippocampus, the hypothalamus, and the brainstem to increase cognitive function. We had a sweet lady yesterday that was visiting, and she came to me afterward and said, holy cow, I feel so much energy. I feel almost like I'm high. I haven't felt this way. What's going on? This is amazing. I don't usually have this. And I said, you have ghrelin secretions. You just drank the water. One cup, just 10 minutes ago. And she came back and she's like, I feel like I have to go do something. I have so much energy. And it's amazing when you're not used to that and all of a sudden you have normal energy. You're like, I feel like I'm high. Well, that's normal to people who have good energy all the time, right? That's what you got. That's why you do what you do, because you feel good all the time and you have plenty of energy reserves to do what you need to do. But I never get tired of hearing that. I love hearing when people are like, oh my gosh. And so, I'm at medical conferences and sometimes individuals with Parkinson's will come up and they have tremors. And 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, their hands are almost still. And they're like, what did you do to me? What's going on? This is amazing. How did that happen? And I start teaching them about the brain and what's going on with the brain and what just happened. And your body didn't have hydrogen in it, and now you do. And so the body's starting to function appropriately. And it's very interesting when you start to teach. This is the first foundational study that occurred 2007. It was published in 2008, showing that hydrogen is a therapeutic antioxidant. And Nature Medicine is one of the most prestigious periodicals, and it is the Bible for doctors and scientists. Whatever they publish, they know is completely accurate because it's vetted, and vetted more. But this is simply telling us that hydrogen is preventative and therapeutic. It reduces oxidative stress, effectively protects cells. But what it says is reduced hydroxyl radicals, the most cytotoxic of reactive oxygen species, but it did not react with other ROS that has a physiological role. What's beautiful about hydrogen is the radicals that are beneficial to life, it doesn't even involve itself with. Hydroxyl radicals, superoxide anions, other things that are damaging in our system, it reacts with and converts them into something else and regulates them. And it's very, very beautiful. And so it just simply says it can be an effective antioxidant therapy owing its ability to rapidly diffuse across membranes. It can reach and react with cytotoxic ROS and protect against oxidative damage. Beautiful study. Since that study, we have 700 studies. That's how amazing this study was, that it woke up the scientific community and said, holy cow, if it will do that, what else will it do? And so we end up with, here's a study on cancer, colon cancer, where April 2015 it was published, And what they were wanting to see is, hey, we have this 5-fluorouracil, which is a chemotherapy drug for colon cancer, and it is effective, but it's not completely effective. We've also heard that hydrogen has a very anti-cancer-like activity in the body. So what happens if we combine them? And that's what this study was about. And so what did we learn? Hydrogen water administration improved the survival of mice with colon 26-induced cancer. Furthermore, hydrogen water enhanced cell apoptosis. Apoptosis is a beautiful thing to have when we have cancer cells, right? Apoptosis is a beautiful, beautiful thing to put into our cell structure and our DNA, where cells will destroy themselves if they're reproducing incorrectly. Something happens when cancer takes over mitochondrial function in a cell, and it no longer destroys itself, and that's how cancer can thrive, because it takes over and says, no, no, you stay, and keep making more of you, when normally cells that are inappropriately duplicating don't. They would destroy themselves. What happens is you enhance cell apoptosis. You tell those cells, no, no, go ahead and destroy yourself. And so you end up having cancer cell death, and that's very beautiful. So what they said here is high content hydrogen water exhibited stronger antioxidative and anti-cancer activity than natural hydrogen water. Well, we know we can get natural hydrogen water on the earth. There are rivers, there are streams, there are places that people go across the earth to get water naturally that has hydrogen in it. In India, rivers, people would bathe in them. There's many, many, many places on the earth that have this kind of water. In small concentration of hydrogen, it still has tremendous benefits to the body. But what they're saying is high content hydrogen water had a stronger. In conclusion, high content hydrogen water can inhibit colon cancer, particularly in combination with 5-fluorouracil. And why do they say in combination with? Because hydrogen water, high content hydrogen water, didn't kill all of the cancer cells, and nor did 5-fluorouracil. But when you combined 5-fluorouracil and the hydrogen, they had 100% cancer cell death in the body. This was a benefit. This was a great study. And also, you don't see the whole study because it's a very long study and a very well done study. But what it also said is there was no negative effects on the body. It just protected the body against the stress from the chemotherapy drug. But it didn't cause any negative effects on the chemotherapy drug. So that the drug company was happy because it helped their drug work better and helped get rid of cancer. So it was a very, very good study. I'm not saying you take chemotherapy drugs. I'm saying the combination of these two had a far better effect on the body. It was able to get rid of cancer, and it was able to not have all the damaging effects of chemotherapy. This is near and dear to my heart because I spent so many years in diabetes. Here, and I was giving, many years ago, 15 years, which was before this study, I was giving it to individuals with diabetes, and we would see their glucose change in 3 to 5 days, normalize. And I'm like, what the heck's going on? And to me, here, I was preventing decubitus ulcers, but imagine my excitement when I could prevent pathology and stop a disease. This was where I was excited. And so what we see is we see a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled crossover study, 30 patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus and also IGT, impaired glucose tolerance. 4 of the 6 individuals with IGT were normalized during this 8-week study. And many other issues, or many other benefits. We can go to, I made a cheat sheet for you. We saw LDL levels reduced by 15.5%, small dense LDL by 5.7, isopropanoates by 6.6, serum concentration of oxidized LDL, free fatty acids, increased, so many benefits, which all tell us what? We were reducing oxidative stress in the body. When you naturally see LDL reduced, it's because you've reduced oxidative stress. LDL is in the body to protect veins and vessels from damage. They are weakening because of oxidative stress, and so LDL is used as a patch by the body to protect the veins and vessels from what? Rupture. So if we see naturally that the body is reducing LDL, it's because we're reducing the source problem, the weakness in the veins and venous system, because of reducing oxidative stress. That's what we're seeing here. So conclusion, results suggest that supplementation with H2 enriched water may have a beneficial role in prevention of type 2 diabetes mellitus and insulin resistance. And again, it's right here. All I did was take that sentence, same sentence, and put it on the cheat sheet for you. How amazing is that? If you know someone with diabetes, that would be good to know, wouldn't it? Here we have what? the most important thing. Selective stimulation growth of anaerobic microflora in the human intestinal tract by electrolyze reducing water. That is the scientific name of what we are doing with the machine. Electrolyze reducing water. We are giving it this property right here. And what does it say? Electrolyze reducing water with values between 0 and negative 300 produced an electrolysis device possess this property. Drinking such water favors the growth of residential microflora in the gut. A sufficient array of data confirms this idea. However, most researchers explain the mechanism of its action by antioxidant properties destined to detox the... Okay, on and on it goes. It's a beautiful thing. Basically, we're fixing the gut. And understand, in Japan in 1950 to 1965, there was a human trial done proving this, and this is why you had all these alkaline water machines coming out. They didn't at all understand what the mechanisms were. They just saw after 15 years of human trials, they cured digestive disorders, they stopped improper fermentation in the gut, and they had tremendous benefits, and they attributed it to pH. Unfortunately, that's what they understood at the time. It wasn't until much later that they began to understand it was actually hydrogen that was doing these things. They attributed it to the pH of the water. Now we know that is completely false. It's been tested and tested and tested. We know it's not true. It is hydrogen. Unfortunately, most alkaline water machines will only dissolve hydrogen for 2 weeks. And the cathode gets calcium and mineral deposits. And if you clean it again with citric acid, then you'll have hydrogen again, but you've got to clean it every 2 weeks. So again, I didn't develop electrolysis. That was Dr. Anthony Carlisle in 1800 in London who developed electrolysis because he was making a hydrogen generator. But somehow we forgot between 1800 and 1930s and 50s when Japan, Dr. Mishasuo was looking at it, missed the point of hydrogen and just thought it was pH. Later, they thought it was microclustering, and that somehow the water molecules, but it wasn't. That was proven false in 1990. So 1980 and 1990, they thought that was true, but we proved that false in 1990. It's been an interesting road to get to this process. For me, in 2007, when I understood, whoa, and one of my employees had a PhD in water chemistry and from Emory in Atlanta, and said, oh my gosh. I said, can you look at all this stuff on alkaline water and tell me if there's any truth? I don't believe, I think it's all nonsense. And he looked at it and said, oh my gosh, yeah, there's nothing in here that's reality except for this one study. And he showed me this one study that he saw, and buried in the middle of the study was one chart that had a little DH, and it showed, and I said, DH? And he goes, dissolved hydrogen. They're showing that there's dissolved hydrogen in the water, and it has a huge ROS scavenging capability. And I'm like, boom. And I just felt the Spirit right through me like a beautiful lightning bolt. And I was like, that's my focus. I had a feeling there was hydrogen, but I had nothing to tell me that that was correct. And boom, 2007, I understood it and was confirmed through the one source that I know to trust completely. And so this is, from that point, I changed gears, and we went on with hydrogen. So again, we're stimulating anaerobic microflora. This is what we want, okay? Everything is all about your gut. And I want you to understand that your health has to do with your gut because it's your immune system. 2 days ago when I lectured, I said, what would happen if in the country where you lived, or anyone's country, doesn't matter, all of a sudden 80% of your military was destroyed in one day? What would the position of the country be? It would be susceptible, right? You would be in trouble. I would be in any country would be in trouble, and they would all of a sudden be looking at, where do I have help from outside of me? I got to get some help because I only have 20% of my defenses here, and I'm in trouble. You know, well, that's what happens to the body with one antibiotic round. Is you have very little immune system left, and if you don't restore that, then you are susceptible. Now, just like any smart country, they're going to send the 20% of the military to the edge to look like we got more than we got, right? Let's make sure we get every boat and every plane and every ship out there. Oh my gosh, we got to protect ourselves. And that's the same thing the body does. The body sends all of its resources to the front and says, where's our problem? We got to devote everything. It gets taxed, okay? Just like 20% of the military would get taxed protecting a country when they were used to 100% of their military, they would be very tired and worn out very quickly. And so would the equipment that they were using. It would be overtaxed. And the same thing happens to the body. We don't think of it in that way, but we need to, because it's the immune system, and we get susceptible, and systems start wearing out rapidly, and we start to have a problem. Okay? Here's a great study on muscle fatigue. Basically, they took soccer players, gave them water half an hour before the game, and what they learned was what? Adequate hydration with hydrous water, pre-exercise reduced blood lactate levels, and improved exercise-induced decline in muscle function. So if we want to walk longer and live life without fatigue, no matter your age, you don't have to be 20-year-old soccer player. You could be 90, you could be 115, whatever your age. If you want to have more energy and last longer with running or just walking around, this will help you. Here's one of my very good friends, and this was many years ago the first chiropractor in the United States of America that used our water system for herself and her patients. I was actually lecturing at a King Bio event. I don't know if any of you know Dr. King with the homeopathic line of products. Most of the homeopathics in the U.S., Dr. King from King Bio has. It's a water-based homeopathic remedy versus vinegar or alcohol. And I was at the event speaking, and this doctor, Kate Kevel, came up to the booth. She's amazing with all of her things. She wrote a book, Healing Stories, and one of the chapters in her book was devoted to our machine and the experiences that many of her patients have had. But it all started with her. She met me at the conference, and she asked me why the machine was better, because she had a different machine that she was using in her office at the time. And she said she hadn't had any results. Well, I just told her, drink water, right? Proof's in the pudding or the water. If it's going to help you, it's going to help you. There's no magic to it. Drink it, right? And so she said, I tried a glass of the water, and the rest is history. I drank 6 ounces, felt my chest expand, my thoracic vertebrae pop, my breathing became easy, and I have not used an inhaler since that day. This is the kind of things that I have gotten used to over the years. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever is going on, the body starts to regulate itself. This was over 4 years now, but she said she has it at her home in her office, and she used it with patients. Now, she was kind enough to send me 3 case studies that she thought were wonderful of the last 5 years. These are some great people who, and you can read over those. We don't need to go over them. This was blood pressure. The first one was blood pressure that was normalized with an individual. The second one, she had a persistent cough. She ended up couldn't work, messed up her life a lot, and now she's doing much better. Oops. And here, this lady came back with a flesh-eating bacteria after going on vacation, and she used the acid water. So one of our machines that we have produces alkaline and acid water for cleaning and disinfecting. We can kill E. coli, Salmonella, MRSA, and staph on contact. And so she was able to use this on her face to heal the flesh-eating bacteria with just applying the water with the hypochlorous acid. Same thing would happen for pink eye or any other bacterial viral infection, psoriasis, eczema on the skin. So let's talk about hydration, the importance of hydration. These are some of the benefits of just drinking water and making sure that the water you can actually get into your body. A lot of people will say to me, man, I drink water, but I don't feel hydrated. I'm thirsty all of the time. I don't know if any of you ever experienced that, but you need to understand why that is. If you have burden, if you have stress in your system, oxidative stress, and your body's not functioning correctly, and the water you're drinking has toxins in it or contaminants or things that the body doesn't want to deal with from a pancreatic or kidneys, liver, it will route it out of the body because it's too much for it to handle. The body's really smart, obviously, and it prioritizes what it does, just like you and I, right? If all of a sudden we lost our job and there was not as much money as before, what do we start to do? We prioritize which bills we pay with the little bit of money we have. Like things that we want to keep, we pay. Credit cards maybe, not so important, right? But the house and the car, we fight hard for those things, or our habitation, our ability to go somewhere. Those are the things we want to prioritize where money's going. Other things, maybe not so important. Body is the same way. It will use resources when it has few of them. It will use them for the most critical things, brain, neurologic, heart, things that sustain life. Maybe digestion, other things aren't as critical. And so you start losing capabilities in those areas because it's going to move water to the areas. When you're not drinking enough water, it's going to put hydration in the most critical areas of the body first. You know, two of the things that you lose fastest is digestion and moisture through respiration. And this is important because people don't understand when you're dehydrated, you don't expel as much moisture in the breath. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is. This is where asthma comes from. This is where respiratory issues come from, because the moisture in breath carries toxins out of the lungs. Water is a solvent. So if the body ratchets down how much water you're breathing out, then what's going to happen? The stuff stays in the lungs. It's very interesting. Again, very simple understanding of how dehydration can cause respiratory issues. And sometimes when I have people that said, oh, my son, he's young and he's on a, he's got, and I said, what? How much water is it? Oh, he won't drink water. Okay, he won't drink water, but he'll take a respirator. I mean, it's stupid. It's stupid. He won't do. What do you mean? Like your son is your boss? What? He's not your kid? Well, what if he doesn't want to go to school? Oh no, he has to go to school. Well, wait a minute. Well, why is it that it's unacceptable for him to say no, I won't go to school, but it is not unacceptable for him to go no, I won't drink water? Where do you draw the line? Where in life are you the parent and now you're not a parent, right? No, you drink water. In fact, I'm not going to buy that crap. So you only have one choice, and it's water, right? That's really simple. Trust me. I did it. My son didn't have crap to eat. He was a blueberry boy when he was a kid, right? Organic foods. If you don't give them Snicker bars for dinner, they don't even know it's there, right? They don't even know. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful if you choose wisely. It's amazing what they grow up doing and what they think's normal. Like, I remember when we were at a conference like this when my son was like 4, and somebody mentioned McDonald's, and it was like one of the highlights of my life. He goes, that's not food, that's entertainment for your mouth. And I loved that because we had taught him well enough to where he was able to get these things, and it's just such a great thing. But I mean, he's a different kid, trust me. How many kids are friends with all of the who's who of natural medicine? My son has had this great benefit being at conferences and with us traveling worldwide, so he gets a lot of things that a lot of people don't understand. But these are the kind of things, breast cancer, just simple things like breast cancer, muscle and joint issues. Hydration does these things. Now, with all this being said, how do we get hydrogen in the body? Obviously, we should be producing it. So first and most important would be you would produce it in your gut. However, most people have significant gut damage. Whether you believe it or not, just start to ask yourself a couple questions. Do I have weight? Am I overweight? Do I have weight right in my stomach area? Do I have acid reflux? Do I have food allergies? These are simple ways to understand if you have gut issues. If any of those things are true, you have gut dysfunction because things are not being regulated. There's nothing wrong with you. It's your system is not functioning, and so you have residual effects. We've been eating gluten and dairy on this earth for thousands of years. How come only in the last few years do we have all of a sudden gluten is a problem, dairy is a problem, all these things are a problem? I mean, like gluten's the new thing. Everything's got to be gluten-free. Well, I can tell you my water's gluten-free, okay? So you can have that. It's good for you. But the real thing is, where all of a sudden did it come? There's not a thing in the world wrong with gluten. You understand? We've been eating it for thousands of years, and it's great. But it's not great when we genetically modify it or we put pesticides in it, right? With pesticides, now it becomes a bomb in our gut to destroy our gut, just like the bugs that the pesticides were designed to. And why are we dumb enough to think as people when they go, no, you're different than a bug. Those pesticides won't damage your gut in the same way. No, nonsense. Don't be so dumb. Go, that's bullcrap. That bug has a gut, and it destroyed that bug's gut. It's going to destroy my gut, too. I'm not eating that crap, right? No. I don't want that. I don't want to be like the bug and have my no ability to bring in digestion and assimilate minerals so that I end up dying. That's what happens to the bugs. Does that sound anything like what's going on in society, that we can't assimilate minerals and vitamins? Of course, because We're having the same effects, but the body is more resilient than a bug because God created us to be that way. And we need to wake up a little bit and go, wait a minute. You know, there was a study in the U.S., Dr. Oz, wonderful study. Kids, 8 to 10 pesticides in their system at any given moment in time. Do you not think that has an effect on their body? If there's 8 to 10 chemicals they're peeing out, who knows what's still in there, but that's what they're peeing out on a daily basis. 3 days on organic food, no pesticides in their system. Okay, just think about that. Here's how we make hydrogen. We have 2 modules in our 2 machines. We have patents on both of them. This process is patented, this process is patented. But here you have a hydrogen module that we take water in and we create hydrogen right here. We then run it through and dissolve it into the water right there. This particular module we call a hydrogen module. It does not change pH of water. It simply dissolves hydrogen. So you have all of the benefits I've talked about. Restoring the gut, increasing energy, neurological benefits, protection from disease right here. And then there's a second type of electrolysis. These are 2 very different processes. This, we can change pH because you have this creating alkaline water because of the hydroxides, this creating acid water because of the hydrogen ions. Okay? Very simple. No benefit at all to hydroxides, no benefit to the pH. This is what we want right there. Okay? And that's what is the mechanism of healing. So in one machine that we have only this module. In the other machine, we have both of these because we're producing 3 types of water, so we have to have 2 engines to do it. Okay? So the machine you'll find at the booth at 525, right across from the wonderful people that are making wonderful food. We're right across, we're next to Theta Living, all in the one row where Robert Scott Bell and Dr. Detox, great guy, Daryl Wolf, on down, Dr. Jimenez, and then Theta Living, and then us right there in that row of the speakers. You can try water from this machine. It is live, it is producing water, and you can enjoy that. This machine will be available in 2 weeks. We have many, many orders for it worldwide, but it will ship in 2 weeks. Now, I just developed the most incredible technology that we understand, and I talked about homeopathic remedies earlier, right? But you know there's frequencies, you know there's energy, you know that there's energy medicine. We know that when we hug people, we're like, ugh, not so good. Or sometimes we hug them and go, man, I could just sit there all day with that person because there's so much love. What are we feeling that we like, right? What are we feeling? So, bottom line is, what do we do with energy? We do a lot of things with energy. It helps us and it can heal us. Love can heal us. Well, we developed a technology to go into our machines, and this is the first machine that we will have where we will heal or have 3,000 frequencies that this machine can make, and you control it on an app in your phone. You just say, do I want autism help? Do I want adrenals? Do I want heart? Do I want liver? Do I kidneys? Whatever. So that's amazing. This machine will have the same thing. The difference between this is we produce water for cleaning dirt and water for killing bacteria and viruses. Okay? You can also use both of them countertop or under sink. You can come to the booth and learn about these. These are for producing hydrogen water if you are on the run or you don't have a machine. And this is how you test the hydrogen concentration in any water. Okay? Here's the filtration. Obviously, it's important. If you listen to